Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be reviewing the Object 140. This is a currently 8.3 PR rank 6 premium medium tank in the USSR Ground Forces tech tree. The pack that it comes in currently costs $59.99 USD when not on sale, and comes with 15 days of premium time and 2,000 golden eagles. With that said, in this video, I'll be going over everything that you need to know about this prototype tank, including its stats, how it plays. I'll go over its strengths and weaknesses, I'll give it some scores in several key areas, and then I'll give my final recommendation on if I feel this vehicle is worth purchasing or not. With that said, if you like this kind of video, please consider subscribing as it helps me tremendously. But without further ado, let's get into the review. Now to start, I'll place its stat card here on the side of the screen. Important things to note are its armament, its mobility, and its frontal armor thickness. Now for how it plays. The Object 140 is kind of like a mix between the T55A and T62, but with a more powerful armament, at least insofar as armor pen is concerned, and slightly better mobility. Because of this, the Object 140 can be played in a number of ways and encourages aggressive usage. With its 100mm D54 TS cannon, it has nearly 300mm of armor pen with its excellent D54 AP APCBC ammo, and nearly 400mm of armor pen with both its D54 APTS and Heat FS ammo. Because of this, it can slice through pretty much any enemy with ease, even with its APCBC ammo, which I personally prefer to use due to its still high armor pen and 100 grams of explosive filler equivalent, so that once it goes through the enemy armor, it blows up and kills the entire crew. If you don't know, this is a phenomenal amount of armor pen for this type of ammo, as similar 100mm shells have only around 200mm of armor pen. This is due to the high velocity nature of the cannon, as it is much longer than a standard 100mm cannon found on the T55A and similar vehicles. This also greatly enhances the APDS's armor pen and universally increases shell velocity across all shell types, making long-range shots much easier. Because of its enormously powerful armament, the Object 140 can easily play as a sniper. Additionally, due to its fairly good mobility and decently good armor, it can also frontline, flank, and even base cap. Having a fully stabilized cannon helps when performing all of these roles tremendously. I suppose it can also play support as well, but its cannon is so powerful that this vehicle is easily up-tierable, so playing such a role is not really necessary. Going back to what I stated at the beginning of this section, the Object 140 almost kind of plays like an in-between tank between the T55A and T62, and as such, both looks and plays similarly to those, though it's just a bit better. As such, the Object 140 can pretty much play again however you want, so long as you mind its fairly long reload of between 8.5 and around 11 seconds, which makes it somewhat difficult to use as a brawler, but again, this is a very universal tank that you can play in almost any way that you want. Now with that said, let's get into its strengths and weaknesses, and first for its strengths. This vehicle has a fantastic armament and ammo options. The 100mm cannon is extra long, which means that it has greater muzzle velocity, making both its APDS and APCBC shells far more powerful than they would be on the smaller 100mm cannon carried on the similar T55A. This makes the APCBC shell incredibly viable and largely the preferred choice, as it has nearly 300mm of armor pen and a sizable 100 grams of explosive filler equivalent. Second, the 140 features a commander's sight. Third, mobility is surprisingly good, especially considering the middling 16.1 horsepower per ton power to weight ratio. Fourth, this vehicle has an extremely powerful top-mounted 14.5mm HMG that can easily destroy tank tracks, lightly armored vehicles, and aircraft. It's basically a light autocannon. Fifth, it has a fairly low profile, which makes seeing the Object 140 a bit tougher than with other vehicles. For its 6th strength, it has a decent or even good armor profile with good thickness and angling at the front of the hull and turret. 7th, the cannon is fully stabilized. And finally, this vehicle features premium RP and SL bonuses. Now for its weaknesses. First, it lacks smoke grenades, though it at least has an ESS, which is something if nothing else. Second, though not bad, the Object 140 only has a standard rangefinder, not a laser rangefinder. Third, this vehicle has a fairly poor reload rate of between 8.5 and 11 seconds. For its 4th weakness, the interior of the Object 140 is cramped and loaded full of fuel and ammo. This all leads to a good amount of one-shot deaths. For its 5th weakness, because the cannon is so large, it's relatively easy for enemies to damage and destroy it. And finally, this vehicle has poor cannon depression of just -5 degrees. Oh, and I promised him that I would do this. Tactical Yeti 673 got a nuke in his Object 140. I just unfortunately did not happen to record that match, so good job Tactical Yeti 673. Now that being said, let's get into how I score this vehicle. And first for armaments, I give give it an 8.75 out of 10. The Object 140 is, to me, among the strongest tanks insofar as armament is concerned around this BR. It features a high-velocity 100mm cannon with incredible versatility between its very powerful APCBC, APDS, and HEAT-FS shells. Further, it has a devastatingly powerful top-mounted 14.5mm HMG, which is stronger than pretty much any other HMG that you can get. On top of this, it's fully stabilized and has a fairly decent turret traverse rate of between 14 and 20 degrees per second, depending on crew skill, with a fully trained and expert crew being a somewhat respectable 18.8 degrees per second. The Object 140 is one of those rare vehicles whose armament will allow almost anyone to play in any way that they choose, as it has such a nice variety of ammunition mixed with being a high muzzle velocity, which also makes sniping relatively easy. The only things holding the 140 back from being a higher score are its mediocre reload rate and a lack of a laser rangefinder, with the latter not even being incredibly common at this BR. Also, I suppose it doesn't have APF SDS, but again, beggars can't be choosers, the armament is still fantastic. Now for mobility, I give it a 5.75 out of 10. While not nearly as much of a strong suit as its armament, the mobility on the Object 140 is much better than its 16.1 horsepower per ton power to weight ratio would indicate. It feels that it's about 10% better than what it is, and I think that's due to its enhanced suspension and chassis, which provide a smoother ride as well as a higher top speed of 54 km per hour to the similar T55A's 50 km per hour top speed. Don't get me wrong, even though it feels faster than it should, it's still around average insofar as overall mobility is concerned, just on the very good side of average. In short though, it's still quick enough where it is likely to never be a hindrance while playing the game, and will allow for things like flanking and base capping if you so choose, and if the situations present themselves. Now for survivability, I give it a 5.5 out of 10. The main things going for the Object 140 insofar as survivability is concerned are its low profile, somewhat thick frontal armor, and high armor slope. If you manage to pen the Object 140, however, it's likely to explode due to its incredibly cramped interior, featuring loads of ammo, fuel, and only 4 crew members that are squeezed together. Things like HEAT-FS, which are fairly common at this BR, will typically be able to pen the front of the Object 140 with no issues, whereas the sides and rear are thinly armored, though you can say the same about pretty much any vehicle outside of things like the mouse. Additionally, it lacks smoke grenades, but at least it features ESS to partially make up for this. Still, the armor will deflect enough shots, especially against autocannons, where it is usable. It just isn't anything great, especially as it lacks ERA and composites entirely. Now overall, I give it a 6.75 out of 10. It may be because I love the aggressive nature of this vehicle, but I feel the Object 140 is surprisingly great, with its longer high-velocity 100mm cannon, extremely usable APCBC ammunition, as well as its other still great ammo options. This vehicle can pretty much destroy any other vehicle with ease. Add in its decent or even good mobility and serviceable survivability, and you have an overall very good or even excellent medium tank for this BR that can play in any number of roles, from frontlining to flanking to sniping, and even brawling if you can minimize your reload time as much as possible. While it doesn't have advanced technology like composite armor or a laser rangefinder, it still has a regular rangefinder which is largely sufficient, and its armor is still just thick enough and sloped enough to be able to deflect a decent amount of shots. The Object 140 is by no means perfect, but it's an excellent tank for players that play angry. Now with that said, do I recommend the Object 140 for purchase? Yes, I do. Even though it admittedly feels a bit bland, as it's very similar to a mix of the T55 and T62 in terms of equipment and playstyle, it feels just different enough, largely due to its fantastic cannon and ammo, that it offers a somewhat unique playing experience. Because of this, when combined with its knack for being powerful when played aggressively, I will primarily say that such players should go for it. If you want a more balanced and new player-friendly vehicle around this BR, the T55 AM1 is a fantastic option that I would actually rate to be at least as good as the Object 140, if not even slightly better overall. So yes, I recommend the Object 140 for players that play aggressively, and also for slightly more experienced players, as it does not hold your hand. If you're a bit newer to this game, as stated before, a great similar BR premium would be the T55 AM1, as it features a laser rangefinder, more advanced ammo options, and composite armor. Oh, and of course I give the Object 140 my Tankenstein seal of approval. The ability for this vehicle to get through the armor of essentially any tank with its APCBC shell brings non-stop joy to me whenever I play it. And for that, I think I'll continue to play the Object 140 a ton over the next few years. Now with that said, thank you all so much for watching. If you don't mind, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel, as they both help me out tremendously. Additionally, let me know what you think about the Object 140 and of this review in the comments below. Either way, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.